Hello. So to start with, I'd like to do an update for Appliance Service. The first thing I'd like to discuss is the project. Last week I posted a video going through the project demonstrating Jira software and Confluence. So I'm hoping that all of the groups are hard at work and making good progress on this project. If you're having any issues, please contact me through D2L or webmail. As well, make sure that when you complete your project, I'd like a small document outlining what each person, each group member in the project completed. All right, the next thing, a reminder, this Wednesday I will be posting on D2L a take-home quiz. You will have 24 hours to complete this and submit it to the Dropbox. This quiz will be open book and you will be answering questions from chapters 4, 5, and 6. The last thing I want to discuss quickly is the final exam. So, big news here, there is no final exam. Instead, what I'm going to do is replace the final exam with a take-home quiz/assignment. This take-home quiz assignment will be worth 15%. So we're taking a 30% final exam, replacing it with a 15% quiz/assignment. That means that the entire course now is graded out of 85, and all of the marks that you've done will be adjusted accordingly. All right, so moving on, the remaining part of this video, I'm going to go through and do a lecture on Chapter 8. Now, the groups that I teach, the 1H's, I have already done most of the lecture material on Chapter 8. So a lot of this will be review for you, whereas the J's, I haven't done the Chapter 8 lecture with you. So this material should be new, and I'm hoping you guys can use it to review and prepare when we do the take-home final quiz assignment. Later this week, I'll be posting a video for Chapter 9, and that will conclude all of the material for the course. All right, let's get started with Chapter 8. All right, so Chapter 8 deals with teams, teamwork in the service desk setting and in general. Okay, so one of the things that the chapter focuses on are the characteristics of a successful team, how, for example, how the leader of the team organizes that team, how the team members approach their roles. Another focus point is the stages of growth that teams go through. There's 4 of them, and we'll go through each of those in detail. The chapter talks about conflict. Of course, in any team, there's going to be some conflict and how teams approach that. For the individual working in a team, how do you define your role and make sure that you're carrying out that role and supporting your team is another topic. And also some skills that you can use when you join a team to basically set yourself up and your team up for success. Okay, so one of the reasons why teamwork is emphasized so much in the service desk is because there's so many products, so much technology, and so many different roles that a service desk has that one person cannot be an expert in all areas. So the service desk is pretty much a perfect example of a team environment where all the team members have to rely on each other to be successful. So a few definitions here. We have a team player. A team player is pretty important. This is a person who contributes to the team's success by cooperating freely and communicating openly with his or her teammates. So I often think about someone who's not a good team player, and that's someone who hoards knowledge, okay? Someone who's worried or insecure that someone else is going to steal their limelight. So they try to keep all of their knowledge to themselves with the hopes that that makes them more valuable individually. But they're not sharing their information and they're not contributing openly. And that's a real disadvantage. So team players always cooperate freely with whoever they're working with. Now we talked about, or I mentioned briefly, the service desk. There's so many products. The products that we use are integrated. So you might be an expert on one product, but then it integrates with 3 or 4 other products, and you need to have a good understanding of those as well. There's a constant technical change, new products, new updates are coming out all the time. Customers are demanding new services, and there's just a lot of complexity. So this is why it's so important. You need good teammates that you can rely on to work in a service desk. All right, now in terms of what makes a team successful, this slide here lists several of these components. So the first one mentioned is a clear sense of purpose. So if you're working for a company or working for creating a product and you're not sure what that product is, or what the goals of your team is, then it's going to be very difficult to be successful. One thing in the video game industry, often the first game that a team makes can be very challenging because you haven't worked with each other before, and if it's a new studio, there might not be a very clear sense of purpose. So some video game studios, for their first game, they will pick a tried and true game genre. For example, tower defense is one that I certainly really like. Working on a tower defense game, it's very easy to get everyone on the same page and understanding exactly what game you're making. Whereas if you were making, maybe an adventure game, there would be a lot of conflicting opinions on what the game should be. Okay, next one is shared leadership. So the idea here is that if you have a leader on the team, that person can, in some situations is going to want to dictate and micromanage and tell people what to do. But when they can, if they can share some of or offload some of their leadership responsibilities, that's going to give other people on the team, they're going to feel like they have a bigger role and a bigger say, and they'll often be stronger contributors to the team's success. All right, we also have diversity. So this is having people on your team that have different skills, different backgrounds, different interests. That way, when certain problems come up, you can approach them from different angles. You can also have different areas of expertise, so you're able to cover more technology at your service desk. So having more diversity is pretty self-explanatory. It's a real benefit for a team. Okay, openness and trust. So we talked about a good team member communicating honestly and openly and working with their teammates. So those are just, this is just mentioned once again here as a successful characteristic for a team. And then another one is positive relationships with other people, in different teams or different roles at the service desk. Now, one thing that comes to mind here is we watched the video about the tester from Ubisoft, and he was mentioning how during the course of a day, he would have to meet with production. Maybe there's a specific bug that comes out, he'd have to go talk to the artists. Then maybe for another one, he'd have to go discuss with programmers. Meanwhile, while working within his own department of QA at Ubisoft while creating video games. So being someone who's well-liked and is able to establish these positive relationships is a real advantage when you have to work with a lot of different groups. Okay. All right, so this slide here just goes into a little bit more detail in terms of a clear sense of purpose. But often a team needs to have a mission, and this should be a very short statement that pretty much explains what type of services the service desk is going to perform and how they're going to deliver those services. Also, certain service desk goals. It's really important any goals are written down, whether they're an overall service desk goal or an individual goal. And often these goals will be the same. So for example, if the service desk has a goal that 80% of contacts need to be resolved by level 1, that would apply both to overall at the service desk and any individual working as a level 1 service agent. They would have that same goal. Okay, so we talked about shared leadership. So basically sharing the leadership responsibilities. And to contrast that, an effective leader would basically just tell people what to do all the time and expect them to do it without asking for any input. Okay, diversity. So this is in terms of the skills that people have. And another way to foster diversity often is to have techniques like job rotation. So you may work primarily as in one role, but every once in a while you get to go in a job shadow or work in other roles to try to gain new skills and new insights into the other roles at your service desk. Now, openness and trust is very important, and this chapter does talk quite a bit about communication and the importance of communication in the service desk. So very, very vital, and I'll just review this again, that team members are willing to share their knowledge. Certainly in a technology-centered team, there is a tendency to have team members that try to gain some expertise and then keep that expertise to themselves. And that's a very detrimental thing to the team in the long run. Another thing that's really important is being able to give feedback. So one of the interesting things about YouTube, now that I'm switching my lectures, is I'm able to actually get some feedback on some of my lessons. YouTube's able to produce analytics where I can go and I can actually see how many people are viewing my videos and how long they view the videos before they turn to watch something else. And I can also watch now myself teach, and I can see some things that I'm doing, what I think doing well, and I can see some things that perhaps I need to improve. As well, I can have my colleagues watch my videos and they can give me some pointers on some things that I can do. Now, in a service desk or a team environment, often you'll have feedback, and that can be formal or informal. Formal would be like a yearly performance review, and informal could be just a team meeting where some concerns are raised or some praise is given based on some tasks that have been completed. So a good team is able to give feedback. And to do that, people on the team not only need to be comfortable giving feedback, but also in receiving feedback. And the feedback needs to be given in a specific way so that it's not going to be deemed as negative or deemed as ambushing someone, okay? If I'm coming to work one day and all of a sudden I get all of this negative feedback, I'm going to feel like I've been ambushed. So there needs to be some structure to the feedback. Okay. All right, so the other successful characteristic here, positive relationships with other successful groups. So depending upon whatever role you have in the service desk, there's many other departments and roles, and you're gonna have to coordinate and work with these people. So being able to do your job effectively and support the other groups and other roles in the service desk, as well as get along with those people on a personal level, is going to provide great benefit. All right, so we're going to move on now, and we're going to talk about the process a team goes through to becoming a solid team. And basically, just because you put some strong individuals together, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a good outcome in a good team. Even if you have a strong leader, there could be other issues that can come up. So to take a team and to get it to a high level, you need several things. You need time. It's going to take time to get to the stages where the team is performing well. You need a good working environment. And the team needs to accept that there's going to be stages they're going to have to go through and progress through to get to the optimum performance level. Now, the four stages that a team goes through, the first one, forming, then storming, norming, and performing. And we're going to go through all of these stages really quickly and just discuss them. And the book also mentions each of these stages as well. So forming, this is the stage where the team first comes together. The team has been selected. Their roles have been given to each other. So you may have a team leader. You may have some senior members in certain skill areas. You may have some junior members. You may have some different skill sets. Okay, maybe you have a programmer, you have an artist, you have a tester. And these people are all coming together to form a team. And when the team first comes together, there's a lot of emotions. People are often a little bit reluctant to really sort of let their guard down. And they're very, very careful what they say, certainly initially. At this stage, the team's mission and goals are defined. And the team leader is going to be very, very active in basically giving direction and helping people understand exactly what they need to be doing. And a lot of communication is going to have to take place in terms of the goals of the team and what product they're making. All right, so after the forming stage, the team then will go into what is called the storming stage. And this is where sort of that nice facade of being polite to everyone and kind of being careful, you know, you don't want to step on any toes. That kind of goes away at this point, right? And the team really begins to, I guess you would say, get real. and they begin to feel like there's a lot of pressure. Back when they first joined the team, there was a lot of excitement, but now the reality of what they actually have to achieve is really starting to weigh on them. And that politeness and not saying what you really think, that kind of goes away. And now at this point there can be a lot of conflict. Often the team members will start challenging each other and jockeying for position. And the team leader really has to try to jump in and keep the team members focused on their goals at this point, and also resolve any conflicts that come up. All right, the next one, so after the storming, then you get on to what's called the norming. And this is where the team members have now kind of realized and they've accepted what their role on the team is. They've also accepted what the actual outcome, what the product and goals of the team are, and hopefully the mission of the team is very clear at this point. And they begin to take ownership and also feel a sense of camaraderie. And start to exhibit some team spirit, hopefully. The team now is used to getting some feedback, and there's active communication channels that the team is able to use to get their feelings and thoughts across. And at this point, the team leader is looking to try to step away and only be involved when the team maybe has a conflict or really needs some direction in some area. But they're trying to sort of step back and let the team members get the work done at this point. And from there, then we jump into the performing stage. And not all teams get to this stage. This is where a team is at maximum efficiency. They're achieving their goals. All of the team members are participating. There's a real spirit of cooperation and collaboration. And there's a great deal of pride and satisfaction amongst the team. And the team is kind of a close-knit community. And at this point, the team leader is able to step back. They are more of a cheerleader at this point. They're still organizing some daily activities, but they don't need to really micromanage or jump in very often at this point. Okay. Now, as I said, not all teams are going to make it to the performing stage. Some might get stuck in the storming or norming stages and never make it to performing. And there can be many reasons for this. One of the big ones is conflict. So you may have one person on the team, and this is probably a very common scenario. One person on the team that's not contributing, not doing what they're supposed to do. And you have other people on the team that are going to be very upset with this and do not accept that you should have a team member that's not contributing, whereas they feel like they are, and there's an unfair situation here. So this is a conflict. And there could be other types of conflict. But if the team ignores the conflict, or even if they deal with it, but they don't deal with it effectively, then that's going to really hamper the team, and most likely that team will never get to anywhere near a performing stage. So to discuss this, a couple things that come to mind when dealing with conflicts or dealing with key decisions on a team. First one is consensus. And sometimes people think that consensus means that everyone on the team has to agree with every decision. Or has to be on board with every decision. And that's not actually the case. It's great when people agree, but in a lot of situations, the best a team can do is make sure that all opinions from every team member are heard, and have those people who express those opinions make sure that they feel like they've been heard and they've had their chance to speak on a key decision. And then a decision will eventually have to be made, and not everyone will agree. But as long as people feel that they've been heard, that should form a strong consensus. And then conflict. Conflict is inevitable. There's going to be small conflicts, big conflicts throughout the process in any team setting. And it's very important that teams are able to deal with these conflicts effectively. Conflict is a natural part of human interaction, and the conflicts are an opportunity. If you have a series of conflicts on a team, that can be viewed as an opportunity, because if you're able to tackle those conflicts head on and resolve them, then that'll often bring the team closer together, and it often will allow the team to find new solutions to problems. The one thing you have to watch out for is avoiding the conflict. So teams sometimes will make the mistake of seeing that there's a potential conflict there. Okay, this individual isn't contributing to the team. but we don't want to really go and talk to them about it because that's going to, just blow up into something else. There's this worry that, we better just, I don't think I'm going to worry about that issue right now. And the problem is if you don't deal with a conflict when it arises, often it's certainly not going to go away, and it can come back and continue to affect the team throughout the rest of the team cycle. So dealing with conflict, very, very important. Okay. So when dealing with conflict, it's very important to try to deal directly with the issue. So try to avoid dealing with personalities or personal issues and focus on the actual facts of the problem. Often a great way to deal with problems is to go on a fact-finding mission. So if there's a disagreement between two sides, go on a fact-finding mission, find out what all the facts are, and then go ahead and present these facts to the people involved in the conflict. Once the correct facts have been released, then that should make it much easier to go and come up with a solution. From the world of sports, one of the conflicts that often arises on teams is playing time. Often certain players will feel that, hey, I should be playing more minutes, I should be starting. And one technique that coaches can often use, I've heard that this is used in professional soccer. Once players get to a certain age, their performance starts to decrease and they can only be playing, they need to play less minutes. So clearly those players, if they're a star player, they're going to be very upset. And when they approach their coach to say, hey, I should be the star player, I should be playing, I should be starting every match. Well, if the coach has a bunch of facts there, the coach can say to them, as each season has progressed, since you turned 30, you now run 10% less per hour of gameplay. And they can basically present them this information that says, so we can no longer have you playing the star role on our team. And certainly the player is not going to be very happy when presented with this information, but they will have to accept that. Given being presented with these facts, they will not be able to fight with the coach about this playing time issue if the facts are correct. Okay. As well, when dealing with a conflict situation, in terms of how you communicate is very important. So avoid, getting into a conflict where you're repeating the same thing over and over again. Okay. Often, if you've said what you mean and you don't feel like you're making any progress, you kind of need to take a step back and try to rephrase your approach. You may also want to try to paraphrase what the other person is saying. And this comes back to a previous lecture where we talked about Chris Voss, the hostage negotiator, who mentioned how once you can get someone who you're negotiating with to say, that's right, then at that point, you can then begin sort of working together to try to solve the problem. So the same thing applies here when you're in a conflict situation. If I've said what I feel is correct and the other person is saying something else, maybe I can come around and try to paraphrase. So let me understand what you're saying is this. And we can work together that way and try to get on the same page. Now, as well, in a conflict situation, you may have a strong opinion, but once presented with some facts, you may then realize, hey, a lot of what I was saying I think was incorrect. And that's okay to recognize that now that new information is available, no, I feel that the original solution was the correct one. And that's an appropriate response. And I think a lot of team members often feel that once they go down a certain road in a conflict, they have to stick to their guns. You can easily change your opinion based on new information. Okay. So moving on here, we're going to talk a little bit more coming up about some of the different roles you can have in a team in terms of your communication style and your work style. And just to review here, being a team player, you need to have a personal commitment. So you need to be dedicated, showing up. You don't want to be that team member that is not participating, missing meetings, not being a strong worker. And you also have to put the needs of the team ahead of your personal goals. So one thing that's interesting there is you may have a goal that you want to get a promotion and you want to move up in the company. And you have to balance that with, I want the team to be successful too, though. So if you focus only on team goals, maybe you're worried that you won't be recognized for your contribution. And that's a valid concern. However, if your team is successful, usually you're going to end up being successful yourself eventually. And one example of that I can come up with is Satya Nadella. And this is someone who has been very successful. And I've used him as an example in some of my lectures previously, but he is the CEO of Microsoft. And basically, he started out just working as a middle manager in tech companies. And his emphasis was always on the team. He was always looking for good people that he could work with on a team and to basically put the team's needs first and to encourage a strong development of team skills. And you can go and read about all of his success, but basically the way that he ended up being promoted was every time he would work on on a project, the project would just be extremely, extremely successful. And he started to stand out as this really key player, based off of his team's success. And eventually now he's been promoted to being the Microsoft CEO. And since he's become CEO, according to this Wikipedia article here, it says Microsoft stock has tripled and been, he's had a lot of success with Microsoft. And interestingly, one of the first things he did was he bought Minecraft. That's cool. So anyway, you can go and there's lots of videos of him online on YouTube where he talks about some of his philosophies about teamwork. Okay, so let's move on now. And now we're going to be looking at understanding the different roles on a team. So the 4 roles we have here are challenger, collaborator, communicator, and contributor. And essentially these are different styles. So if you have a group of people, some of them are going to have one of these styles will be a more dominant style, or maybe a couple of them will be more dominant. And as the team goes through, it's from forming all the way to performing, these different roles are going to be more important at certain phases of development. So let's look at each of these team player styles here. So the first one is challenger. And the challenger, this person serves as the devil's advocate. So this person questions the goals of the team. They question the methods, the procedures. If it was a video game, they would be questioning, is this game fun? Are we developing this game the correct way? Maybe we should be looking at this or this, okay? They're constantly challenging the status quo of what the team is doing. All right, the next one is the collaborator. So this person is very goal-oriented. They like to work with others and they want to jump in and get stuff done. So a collaborator, they might see someone working on a project, a task, maybe that person's struggling. So the collaborator will just jump in. They'll say, hey, let's team up here. I think I can probably assist you with this task that you're working on. And they really love that sort of jumping in team environment. And they're willing to do whatever's necessary within a team environment to get something done. All right, next up is a communicator. This person's a really good listener. They really shine in team meetings. They also their communication skills. They don't try to dominate the communication, but rather they try to encourage other people to share their thoughts and their ideas, and they try to facilitate a really strong communication channels on their team. All right, and the next one is the contributor. This person is really, really task-oriented. This person doesn't hesitate, and they really just get to work. They kind of put their head down, and they just work, and they produce great products and great results when given tasks. And even if they're not given something, if they see something that needs to be done, they just jump in and they just try to get it done. This person often works in somewhat of an individual format. They like to kind of just jump away from the team and do something that provides value for the team. Now, we've previously talked about the 4 stages a team goes through, and in these 4 stages, different team styles shine brightest. So in the forming stage, this is where the challenger is really effective. They push the team to set high standards. They question the validity of goals. They try to sort of get people moving towards the storming stage because as we know in the forming stage, there's that polite facade and not a lot of work gets done. So this is where the challenger comes in and really tries to break down barriers and get the team moving in a certain direction. All right, in the storming stage, this is where the communicator comes in. They're able to facilitate getting good lines of communication open. They might be able to bring people together for meetings, bring people together for discussions during this stage. And then in the norming stage, the contributor is very important. In the norming stage, the team is now beginning to actually get some useful work done. And the contributor is able to jump on and work with other people to really come up with some solutions and get work done for the team. And then in the performing stage, the collaborator, okay, so I made a mistake. Let's go back. The norming stage, this is the contributor. So this is the person who basically is task-oriented, okay? And they're going to focus on individual tasks, just kind of getting stuff done. So in the norming stage, they're able to really get a lot of work done. They might realize, hey, we haven't really focused on this area of our product and we're going to need to. So without hesitation, they'll go do a bunch of research and then they can give that research to the team. Then when we get to the performing stage, this is where the collaborator really comes into their own. And this is a person that is very team-oriented and really likes to get down and do work in a team environment. So the performing stage is perfect for this person. All right. Now in the team environment, each style can be important, as we said. At certain phases, each style really shines brightest. However, if you're someone that overemphasizes a style, it can also be problematic. So for example, if we go back and look at the challenger, okay, well, it's appropriate to question the team's methods and their direction early on. If the challenger doesn't accept the decisions that are made and they continue to repeatedly question decisions that have already been decided on and discussed, then they can actually be very disruptive to a team, for example. So basically, each style can become ineffective if you overemphasize one of those styles. Now, most people have one style that kind of, that dominates their teamwork. For me, I would certainly say that I prefer to be a contributor. So I'm very task-oriented. I like to see certain tasks and just jump into them and kind of put my head down and then come back to the team and present, hey, I've got this great result. This is something that we can all use now. Whereas other people might have some other team styles that that are dominant for them. Now, it's important, though, that you don't only use one team style. There are other times where I need to be a strong communicator. I also need to be a collaborator with other people and a challenger. So being able to try to use other styles and develop other styles is very important. All right, so we're going to move on now, and we're going to now try to talk a little bit about what each analyst's role would be in a service desk and how you can approach doing the best with your job to support the service desk. So because a service desk, we know it's a team, each individual has a very specific role to play. Their role is going to be defined by the mission of the team and their specific title within the service desk. And the service desk is extremely important because customers are going to form opinions about the entire company based on that service desk. So you could have a company, say a bank, for example, and maybe a few times a year, each customer is going to contact the service desk. How they view that bank is going to be probably 90% determined on those 2 times a year that they contact the bank service desk to try to get something done. If they're given really great service, they're going to be very happy and satisfied with their bank. If the service is poor, they have to wait for a long time, they deal with service desk agents that don't seem to be knowledgeable, then they're not going to be very happy and satisfied. So it's very critical that everyone on the service desk is able to provide great service. All right, now some ways that you can contribute to the service desk is understand what the overall goals of the service desk are and understand what the individual goals that you have for your role. Often these goals will be the same in some situations. So for example, here we have some service desk goals. This one here, resolve 80% of reported problems at level 1. So that would be both a goal that overall the service desk would have, and all level 1 agents would also strive to achieve that goal. Another one here, reduce support costs by 5% by year end. That goal would be more directed overall at the service desk and wouldn't be focused as much on each individual. However, there are certainly things that individuals would do. They might have goals to try to reduce each contact, how many minutes they spend with each contact, and that would support the overall goal of reducing the cost by 5%. So in other words, team performance is only good as the performance of analysts of each individual who has to contribute. Now, to help evaluate the performance, often metrics will be used. So because of all the technology used in the service desk can generate really great metrics that will determine how well each service desk agent is performing their job. So some of the tools that can be used, for example, automatic call distributors. These can provide statistics about how many calls each service desk agent takes per day, what the average duration of that call is, how much time a service agent takes between each call. And those can be compiled and used to analyze the performance. As well, an email response management system. It can be used to see how many emails have to be sent back and forth before an issue is resolved, how long it takes before an email is responded to by an agent. So these are all really important. As well, we have incident tracking and problem management systems. So here we can look at how many incidents are coming in, what percentage of them are resolved at level 1. And then for problem management, we can look at how many times the same problem is being reported in incidents and how many problems overall are in the database. So here's just some more examples of some metrics. So average call duration, time idle, we talked about those. Availability, so how often you're available to take a call. And these can be compiled and used to try to improve the performance of the service desk. So average handle time, so this is the average length of time required to write an email, average number of email exchanges. Okay, and then in terms of incident and problem management, you can have a reopen percent. So if I'm working fixing incidents, how many times do I provide a solution, but then that solution comes back as failed? In other words, the ticket was reopened, and I now have to go and provide another solution. Right. So these metrics are very important. And coming back to my example of now putting my lectures on YouTube, YouTube actually collect some really powerful analytics. As I said, I can go and look at the average time someone watches my videos. I can look at how many views my videos get each day. I can look at how many likes and how many comments I get from my videos. I can also look at the total duration of all of the time that my videos have been watched. So in other words, if I see a video I'm making and I say, hey, these are my analytics. So maybe I released a video and in the first week it was watched for 5 hours by maybe 20 students, and it did okay, I guess. But then I look at it and I say, well, I think I can improve that. So maybe I come up with some more visuals. Maybe I change the duration of my video. I release that one, and then I can compare and I can see, was my video more successful than my previous one? Okay, so some other tools that can be used. Customer satisfaction surveys. Customer satisfaction can be difficult to capture, so a survey is one way where you can simply ask the customer what their level of satisfaction is. Monitoring is another one, and this, once again, I'm coming into, kind of glad I'm doing these YouTube videos now, because obviously monitoring is a great one. I can now monitor my performance by watching my videos or having someone else watch my videos and give me some pointers on how to improve. All right, so we talked a little bit about feedback, and feedback's extremely important working in a team environment. Someone might be, working and feeling like they're doing a good job, but if they're not getting regular feedback, they're going to be missing opportunities to improve their performance and to make up for some of their deficient areas. So feedback can be great if someone's doing something well. You want to give them some praise. Also, if they're struggling, maybe they're off track, they are not understanding something properly, giving them some feedback is another great way. Another one is if there's a conflict, there's something that's going on that needs to be dealt with, and feedback would be done in a conflict resolution format. So to be effective, the feedback needs to be organized. A good way would be to have, say, weekly meetings where some feedback is going to be given on performance, or maybe it's just a yearly thing where you have a yearly performance review where you get feedback on the work that you've done. But regardless, it's important that the person receiving the feedback knows it's coming, that they don't feel ambushed by the feedback, and the feedback is given in the most positive way as possible, but still delivering what the intended message is. And also, it's important on a team that team members, they are aware it's their responsibility to accept feedback. If someone comes and gives me some feedback and tells me, okay, these are 5 things that you're not doing very well, Eric, with your YouTube videos, I have a choice. I can get upset based on that feedback and I can let it bother me, or I can look at what they've actually told me and I can then try to improve my delivery. And certainly in this course, when I've run it in previous years, students have said that they would like to do more client service software. So because of that, I integrated, and you guys are going to laugh, but that's why I added Spiceworks. We had done Jira previously, but I hadn't used Spiceworks, and I decided that this would be a good thing to add to one of our assignments to give students more experience using client service software. And that was based off of feedback I had on the course previously. Okay, so basically communication really important. We're seeing this now. I mean, people now with the social distancing are having to change their communication channels. So companies now are switching to Slack channels and Discord to basically communicate based on their day-to-day work. And certainly when using any communication channel, you need to know what's expected and what the correct protocols are. So for example, if you're using Discord, you should be updating what your status is, letting people know when you're going for lunch, knowing not to reorder channels on the Discord server because everyone in the channel will see it. It's not your personal order. You're actually rearranging it for everyone. So being able to communicate effectively is extremely important in any team. Okay, so pretty much last topic is just developing positive relationships with teammates. And I think a key takeaway here is that we're all human. So if you can go out of your way to ingratiate yourself with your teammates, and they're going to appreciate that and they're going to like you. And you're going to have more success when people on your team like you than if they don't. So some of these tips here, getting to know your teammates on a personal level, taking an interest in things that they're doing and asking them questions to show that you're interested in what they're up to and what their interests are can go a long way to that. Sharing your information, working on stuff and being open and honest and sharing information with your teammates, helping them with their tasks. Be willing to reach out and help someone if you see them struggling. And then also if a teammate's doing something really well, give them some praise. I think for me, some of the best teammates I've had, that's the quality that they have. They don't hesitate. If they see someone doing something well, they're going to jump in and they're going to say, hey, great job with that. That was a really good find. Really like how you handled that. These are some things that go a long way and, to basically building rapport with others on your team. Okay, so basically, you want to be successful on a team. You want to be someone that stands out as an active participant on the team. You don't want to be someone that kind of just falls through the cracks. And to do that, you want to communicate effectively and be really active with your team. Be a strong contributor as well. So that's going to conclude Chapter 8. And I'll be posting Chapter 9 shortly. Remember, if you guys have any questions, any concerns, reach out to me on D2L and through email. And I will be posting Chapter 9 video shortly. Okay, bye for now.